So everybody can see this white screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now look at this walnut diagram. What is there on the screen? Okay. Uh, While looking at this diagram, can you make some observations here? Any observation about this walnut diagram? Any observation?
The junctions are circumcenters of triangles formed by 3 points.
Yes, that is a good observation. Each vertex is a circumcenter of a 3 points which are defined by this bisector between them. So in this case, these 3 points. Okay. Then anything else? Similarly, each edge is a bisector between a two sides are part of the bisector. Okay. So anything more you can say? There is some problem in the institute. So the Wi-Fi has a problem, so I'm not able to connect it from my tab. So I connected from the desktop. So I cannot share my screen immediately. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. Let's see whether I can connect it from there or not. Okay, just be online. So everybody able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So we will go back to screen sharing mode. So there was some issue. I don't know what problem actually. Okay, now you're able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so each Varna region is convex. See, from this diagram, we can see that one. Okay. And if you look at these regions, some regions are bounded, some are unbounded. This is unbounded region. Yes. And regions are, some are bounded regions. Can you distinguish which are the unbounded, which are not unbounded?
We can find this using the phase table.
No. See, I'm not that actually. So which regions are unbounded? See, each region is corresponding to some site. Okay. Which sites have unbounded regions and which sites has a bounded region? That's my question.
The outermost vertices which are there, they are corresponding to the regions which are unbounded. So maybe the convex hull of all the points, something like.
Yes. So vertices on the convex hull of these points, okay, having the unbounded regions. Okay, that is true. Yeah, now we will go to formally various definitions and this properties. Now, so what is given to us is a set of sites okay, and we are defining a what is called a, yeah, when you have a two sites and bisector is the what is the defining the one regions between them. So we denote this region by this pi pj, and this region we denote by pj and pi. See, this bisector between them divides the plane into two half planes, and the first vertex actually we are using in this representation to show okay which region it corresponds to. This half plane is denoted by region which contains this pi, and this half plane is actually first vertex gives this which half plane actually it is, and second one is actually gives this bisector with what. Okay, yeah. Then we use this rotation. The P set of sides are given. Warna of P is the Warna diagram of this set of points. Okay, or we can use simply that V of P. Okay, in short. Then Warna region of any particular site. Okay, we can use this notation, or we can use the V of Pi. Okay. So if you look at this, the way we constructed this Warna diagram on a screen on the paper, okay. So Warna region of this point Pi, okay, is nothing but an intersection of half planes. If you look at here, okay, let's take this one. Okay, let's take another example here. So you take this sum of couple of points here. Okay, now look at this one. And if you see yesterday, actually, the what we have seen actually Warner diagram, one cell, Warner diagram, two cells, Warner diagram, three cells. So we are taking the bisector. So you name the other one. Okay, so you take one bisector between I and 6, this one. So this is the region corresponding to Pi. Similarly, if you take a bisector between the say I and say 5, so it will be something like this. Okay, so intersection of these two half planes, this one. Okay, similarly, when you take a bisector with the 7, so it will be something like this. So this region. Okay, similarly, if you take a bisector with the 4, it will be something like this. So this region. Okay, similarly, if you take a bisector with 3, okay, it will be something like this. And if you take a bisector with 2, it will be something like this. And if you take a bisector with 1, it may be something like this. So this is the region corresponding to Pi. So the way we constructed, that is true. Okay, from the definition. So Warner diagram of the cell, okay, Warner cell of a point Pi is nothing but an intersection of planes, okay, with Pi and Pj, and we have to consider all possible Pi's, okay, and such that actually J is not equal to I. So basically intersection of n minus 1 half planes. Okay, so when you are taking the n minus 1 half planes, so intersection of n minus 1 half plane is always convex. So that's why Warner region of any cell is a convex. Okay, now, so what we can say about number of vertices, number of edges, and number of faces of a Warner diagram. Okay, so we denote the number of vertices in Warner diagram by NV, number of edges NE, number of faces by NF. So number of faces is equivalent to N is number of sides given to us. Okay. So what we can say about number of vertices and number of edges? How many vertices will be there? How many edges will be there in a one-line diagram of n sides? Can anybody say anything about them? You may not be able to give exact number, but can we say something in terms of some bound? Okay.
Edges will be at most n square.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything? See, one thing we can say that this Warner diagram is a planar graph. Can we say that? It's a planar graph, no? Planar embedded straightened graph. Agree? So if this is a planar graph, so can we say something? Still this number of edges will be order n square? In worst case, of course, in this diagram, it looks like a some order n only, but in worst case, you will have a order n square edges. Or can you recollect any formula where in a planar graph, number of edges, number of vertices, number of faces, there's some relation is there. Anybody can recollect the formula? Formula is a relation between number of edges, number of faces, and number of regions. What? You forgotten your discrete maths? Euler's formula, Euler's formula, Euler's formula, whatever it may be. What is Euler's formula?
So n minus m plus f equals to 2. Like number of vertices minus number of edges plus number of faces is equals to 2 for connected planar graph.
Yeah, we represent the vertices and E edges and F for faces. So this is a planar graph. Okay, this is the Euler's formula. Do you remember this one? So if you say that in a planar graph, if number of faces are say or n, and what we can say about number of edges and number of vertices, is it possible to have an order n square? See, all of them has to be order n actually. So in the planar graph, all of them are order n. Okay, so that's one thing what we can refer this one. So in fact, actually, we can prove a little bit of stronger result. Okay, saying that actually a number of edges are okay at most less than or equal to 3n minus 6, and number of vertices are less than or equal to 2n minus 5. So how we can prove these two results? Can we use the Euler's formula in this one? It is a simple mathematics only, nothing very complicated. Okay, can we use Euler's formula to show these results? Only thing what we know is still number of faces are n. So Warner diagram of n cells has n regions. Can we, first of all, can we apply Euler's formula to this Warner diagram?
Yes, sir, because it's a connected planar graph.
Yes, connected planar graph. But if you look at this graph, these edge is a extended infinity, and these regions are unbounded regions, infinite. There's no bound on this one. So when you apply Euler's formula in the planar graph, okay, each region is bounded, and each edge is n by its vertices. Each edge has a two endpoints, two end vertices. But in this case, it's not true for all edges. So in a planar graph, you forget about the geometry. If you look at any general given planar, any graph, okay, each edge is well defined by the two vertices. And each face in a planar graph or planar embedded graph is bounded by, okay, sequence of edges, is a closed one. But here, this is not true. So we cannot apply this Euler's formula directly. But what we will do actually is, we will assume a one vertex at infinity and connect each edge, infinite edge, to this one. By doing this, each region becoming a bounded, and each edge is also as a two end vertices are there. Agree? Each edge is well defined by means of two vertices, and each face here is bounded. In this planar graph, we can apply the Euler's formula. Everybody got this point? Okay. So in this graph, we are introducing one extra vertex. So number of vertices actually is NV plus 1. So number of edges are remain same. There's no change. And number of faces are remain same. Yes? Actual number of vertices in the Warner diagram plus 1. So number of edges are remain same. Number of faces remain same. So you can apply the Euler's formula like this. Okay, this is one equation. Okay, and we need something more to prove these two bounds. Okay, so if you take this degree of all the vertices, sum of the degrees of all these things, okay, that is equal to twice number of edges. Agree? So sum
Yes,
of
sir.
degrees of all vertices, okay, to NE. And if you look at any face here, each face is bounded by at least 3 edges. No, yeah, that is true. And here, if you look at each vertex here, degree of each vertex is at least 3. Of course, in this case 4, okay, because all the 4 points are co-circular. Otherwise, if no 4 points are co-circular, degree of each vertex is 3. And degree of this vertex is, okay, depends on number of vertices on the convex polygon. At least 3 will be there. Okay. So degree of each vertex is at least 3. 3 times of number of vertices. This one. So you will get this inequality. This is exact sum of degrees, and this is actually a lower bound on the number of degrees. So degree of each vertex is at least 3. It may be more than 3 also possible, but degree of each vertex is at least 3. So number of vertices into 3 is degree is lower bound. So this inequality you will get. And if you use these two equations, and if you do some manipulations, and you will get these two inequalities. Can you try this one? Just you have to use this two equations to get these two inequalities. That's all, nothing else. Okay. You try the simple mathematics only, nothing to okay, to explain here. Now, yeah, we'll go to the next property. Here, let's denote, okay, circle with P as a center. No, okay, Q as a center, and this capital P actually denotes the that whatever initial input what you have taken here. Yeah, this set P. So this circle is the largest circle. Okay, with Q as a center, and there's no other point from P inside. Okay, or you can say largest empty circle. See, for example, if you take this set of points like this is a P. Okay, now you take a one. This is the Q. Okay, and this is the center. You draw a circle. Okay, still you can expand this further. You expand it further. Still this is empty. Okay, so yeah, it's not exactly center of this one. Okay, you will have something like this. Okay, yes. So you keep the Q as the center and start drawing a circle. Keep expanding till it touches some point from the set P. Okay, so you stop it, and that is what is the largest empty circle with Q as a center. The largest empty circle means there's no point from P or no point from this set of sides are inside. Okay, outside. Okay, so this is the largest empty. So if this largest empty circle, here in this example, this site and this site is on the boundary of the circle. Okay, that means the point Q is on the bisector of these 2 points. So if you say that Pi and Pj, or Q is an edge of Warner diagram. So if this circle contains only one point on its boundary, then Q belongs to Warner region of that particular site. If it contains 3 points, then it is a vertex of the Warner diagram. Okay. then Q belongs to Voronoi region of Pi. If this contains 2 points, Pi and Pj on its boundary, then Q belongs to Voronoi edge. And if this circle contains 3 sides, say Pi, Pj, and Pk, then Q is a Voronoi vertex. So this is another property. You can classify each point by means of a how many vertices present on the largest empty circle with Q as a center. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will define another interesting graph. Okay, let's define once again here. Okay, now I'm taking a another set of points here, maybe simpler one. So if you look at this Voronoi diagram, it will be something like this. Okay, in this case, each vertex actually are defined by 3 points. Now, see, corresponding to this bisector or corresponding to this edge in the Voronoi diagram, I add these two. This edge is defined by the bisector of these two vertices. I join them. Similarly, this edge, so I join this two. And corresponding to this edge is defined by this vertex and this vertex, this side and this side. So I join them. So similarly, this bisector or this edge defined by these two. Similarly, this edge defined by these two. So if you join them like this, so what we did, for each edge in the Voronoi diagram, okay, we are defining another edge. Here that Voronoi edge is defined by bisector of the two sides. So corresponding to each Voronoi edge, we are connecting the corresponding sides by an edge. So whatever we got here is, this is each one is a triangle because each vertex is defined by 3 sides. So each face in this diagram is a triangle. So this is called what is called a Delaunay triangle. Delaunay triangulation. Okay. So this red, if you remove this one, okay. So this is what is called a Delaunay triangulation. So given a n sites, we can have a convex cell of these points. And we can add more edges between them without crossing each other. So this is the maximum possible edges we can add. Okay. So this is a one triangulation. This is also triangulation. You can triangulate these vertices many different ways. You keep on adding edges without crossing. Okay. And finally you will have with we end with the triangles basically. Each one is a triangular face. Here we can triangulate many different ways. See, for example, if you remove this edge, you can add this edge. You will have a different triangle. And suppose if you remove this one, okay, you can add this edge like this. You can triangulate many different ways. For example, you can remove this one and add this edge. Okay. And you can add this edge also. Okay. So you can triangulate many different ways. But this triangulation, we got it from the Warner diagram. So here this Delaunay triangulation is called a dual of Warner diagram. We are defining from the Warner diagram. Of course, we can define the Delaunay triangulation independent of Warner diagram also. But here, a Delaunay triangulation Warner diagram are there is a one-to-one correspondence is there. So each vertex in the Delaunay triangulation, okay, corresponding a face in the Warner diagram. And each edge here in the Delaunay triangulation corresponding to a bisector between those two. And each face of a Delaunay triangulation is corresponding to a vertex in the Warner diagram. Okay, so each vertex in Delaunay triangulation, okay, corresponds to is a site or a face. No, face, okay, face in Warner diagram. And each edge in the Delaunay triangulation corresponds to bisector or a edge in Warner diagram. Each face in a Delaunay triangulation corresponding to vertex in Warner diagram. So there is a one-to-one correspondence between the Delaunay triangulation Warner diagram. Both are planar graphs and both are having a lot of geometric properties in this one. Okay. So the Delaunay is the author of the Delaunay triangulation. Warner is the author of Warner diagram. Both of them are defined this structure independently. And there is a time gap of nearly 20-30 years or maybe more than that between them when they define these two diagrams, Warner diagram and Delaunay triangulation. So earlier, actually, there's not much communication. Whatever whoever published in a local journal sort of thing, but others are very little known about others' work. So that's why actually there's both of them defined independently, and they are around 30-40 years time difference. They don't know each other's work. So yeah, that is the history of this Warner diagonal triangulation. But their one-to-one correspondence is there. Whatever the property is there in the Warner diagram, similar property will be there in diagonal triangulation. The one-to-one correspondence will be there in the properties also. Okay. So any questions? So before ending, actually, just I will say one point. So we all of us know minimum spanning tree. So minimum spanning tree means basically given a graph, we want to find a minimum spanning tree in that graph. Okay. So I modify this slightly in the minimum spanning tree in the geometric sense. So we have a vertices in a plane. So each edge is nothing but a distance between them. If you have P and Pj, and distance between them is the cost of that edge. So you have n vertices and you have a odd n square edges. Yeah, basically you're considering all possible edges between the vertices, and weight of each edge is nothing but a distance between them. Now we want to find out a minimum spanning tree among these vertices. So basically what we have, actually we have a complete graph of n vertices, and weight of each edge is nothing but a distance between the vertices. And we want to find out a minimum spanning tree in this complete graph. This minimum spanning tree, what is called a Euclidean minimum spanning tree, EMST, because these vertices are in a Euclidean plane, and distance between the vertices are measured as Euclidean distance. So this is called a Euclidean minimum spanning tree. This Euclidean minimum spanning tree is a subgraph of diagonal triangulation of these points. So even though there are odd n square edges are there in the given graph, we can start with the diagonal triangulation. Somehow you compute a diagonal triangulation. So diagonal triangulation is a planar graph, and number of vertices are n. So number of edges and number of faces also n. So you can start with the diagonal triangulation, and you can construct the minimum spanning tree. So that way actually we'll get a faster algorithm. In fact, you can do it in n log n time. So you don't need to start with the odd n square edges, and you can use a Prince-Kruskal algorithm. You can use that way. So, but that becomes complex, it becomes higher. So in fact, if you compute the diagonal triangulation, and if you want to find out a minimum spanning tree from that, it becomes a faster and becomes n log n time. Okay. So diagonal triangulation can be computed, or Warner diagram can be computed in n log n time. So that is the advantage of this geometric minimum spanning tree, or Euclidean minimum spanning tree. Okay. So any questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, this is just regarding the notation, sir. Above you defined something V of Pi. Could you repeat what does that mean?
Which one?
When you were defining VOR, H of Pi, Paj there. Yes, here. You were writing something V of Pi. This
Yeah,
V of Pi.
H of this one, na?
Yeah, H is clear, sir. Down V of Pi. Below VOR of Pi, there V of Pi. What does V of Pi mean?
This is the Warner region of site Pi.
Okay, both mean the same. They are not
Same.
different VOR
Yeah.
and V.
Yeah, basically different authors use a different ways actually, that's all, nothing else. So here
Oh,
also Warner diagram of the entire set is defined by either VOR, PR, V of P actually. Okay, nothing else.
okay, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
So in fact, actually Dillon triangulation captures, or Warner diagram also captures a lot of geometric properties, which are nearest. So this is Warner diagram is defined in terms of bisectors. Okay, bisector is defined, something is a closeness or nearer this thing. So it basically Warner diagram, Dillon triangle captures a lot of neighborhood properties, and this is exploited in many different applications in the image processing, okay, face recognition, and wherever you have points and faces and triangles are there, you can use this very well. Okay, and we'll see some of these properties in next week. Okay, so and the algorithm for computing the Warner diagram also we'll see in the next week. So here actually we use a Sweeplin algorithm for constructing the Warner diagram. It's another beautiful algorithm. So we'll see next class, next week. Okay, any questions? Okay. So if no more questions, we'll see you next week.